Hello, Drunvalo.
Hello, Lilu. Hello, good morning from Sedona with the Red Rocks and all this beautiful stuff here in Arizona. And you, I guess, are in France, is that right?
I am in France currently, yes. So thanks to technology, we can do this. I feel very blessed to have this conversation right now with you and share it with as many people on the web as possible. A lot of people are looking up for those teachings that you are sharing, with us. So really, really thankful. And I want to talk particularly this time about 2012. But historically, the evolution of humanity would be important to your eyes to explain before we get into where we're at right now and what you're seeing actually. And I want to talk about plasma beings as well. So tell us about this evolution.
Well, okay. If you go back to, say, 1890, somewhere around in there, we were riding around on horses, which is a beautiful thing to do. But the idea of the kind of technology and the kind of evolution that they were about to go into, they had no idea. The idea or the concept of going to the moon or sending spaceships to Mars and mapping the entire surface of Mars, or to Venus and mapping the entire surface of Venus, these kind of things, they weren't even science fiction. They didn't have that kind of understanding. And this was only a little over 100 years ago. And all of a sudden, things began to escalate and move very, very quickly. If you go up into Tesla's work with the Montauk experiment in 1941 and 42, there he was beginning to introduce technologies that the Earth had never, ever even considered before. What they were trying to do there was to get a battleship to become invisible, literally to make it fourth dimensional. And they were using technology that was off planet. Tesla himself said, they asked him where he got this, and he said, I'm getting this from ETs, people I'm talking to. These ETs that he was talking to were the ones that we were first introduced to. That was the grays, the little guys. They weren't very tall. They had a gray skin and these big black eyes. And that was, they were giving him technology to the government in return for us being nice to them. We had a whole different relationship with them when we first started. But as time went on, that changed. Then in 1945, we exploded an atomic bomb. That changed everything for us. That was technology, but it really changed our evolutionary patterns. What we did was illegal. It was against the law everywhere throughout the universe. You can work with fusion. You can bring atoms together. You can't break them apart. That's illegal. The reason is because everything is interconnected. And so if you do something on a small level, like an atomic level, it's going to affect something on a big level. And in this case, it was the Greys' home base. They were out of Orion. If you look into the middle star of the belt of Orion and go directly behind that to the Crab Nebula, an exploding nebula, around that area is where the Greys came from. And we literally destroyed about 100 of their planets. And so they were upset, to say the least. And they came here actually in time travel. They went back. They first arrived here in about 1910, trying to fix things, and they were that's why they were helping us with these Montauk experiments. But when the atomic bomb went off, that triggered everybody in the universe. I mean, everyone. Basically, the cosmic police came in. And in 1946, in the summer of 1946, there were spaceships all over every single military base in Europe. There might have been an exception, but not very many. And they just swarmed all over everywhere. And then in June of 1947, they were all over every military base in the United States and in Japan.
How do we know that?
I can prove that. The head of the Blue Book project, which was the United States Air Force project, was Captain Rupert. They never talk about him. They really want to act like he never existed. But he was the director of the Blue Book project from day one all the way to about 4 or 5 years into it. And prior to that, he was the head and the director of the Project Grudge, which is an even more secret UFO investigative project. And when he got out, which I think was in 1951 or 52, and they relieved him of that, he wrote a book to the United States people called A Report on Flying Saucers. And he gave in detail everything that happened in his administration for 5 years. He listed names and people and the generals and exactly the committees that met and everything. And he was the one who said this, that they all started out first all over Europe in 46, and then all over the United States and Japan in 1947. And if anybody wants to see that book, by the way, the Air Force at that time, right when he got out, decided that this had to remain secret. And so when he published this book, they went out and they confiscated every copy of this book they could find. And interesting enough, he died a year or so later. We don't know why, but he is no longer existing. And when I found this book, I found one copy of it. It was 50 cents, a book from back in the 1952. We recopyrighted it and we reprinted it. And so I haven't sold this for a long time, but if anybody wants it, they can go on drunvalo.net and I'll get them a copy of it and they can read it. It's amazing. There were 42,000 sightings in 1947, and they took 750 of those sightings that were so outrageous just to study carefully. Those were sightings where the UFO was directly over a military base with one of our jets directly behind it, and the pilot locked onto it with our radar directly seeing the two blimps going by. And in these cases, usually quite a few generals and people on the ground watching them go by. And so it wasn't a matter of did this happen or did it not. They had 750 cases that they knew for certain it happened. And he talks about these things.
So tell us, why does it disturb so much the government?
Well, they realized by 1951 or 2 that this was a serious situation. And they also realized that they weren't as friendly as they thought they were initially. And actually they were not friendly. Their intention was to eliminate every last human being on Earth. And they weren't kidding around. And they began to know this, and that's when they pulled the shade down, made sure nobody knew what was going on, and then they continued on trying to solve the problem. This is why they went into Star Wars. It wasn't to go after incoming meteorites and things like this. It was so that we had a 360-degree angle where we could declare war on them if we had to. And they were scared for a long time, and they had good reason to be scared. And that's over with now. That doesn't exist anymore. We've solved all of those problems, and the Greys aren't even on Earth anymore right now. They have left us here. And the situation with ETs has changed dramatically over the last few years. And it is this new approach that is coming in is extremely positive. And we think that there's just the Greys here and perhaps the reptiles and a few other races that are working together. But because of what's going on here and because of our evolution, this is something I have to get into, what's going on in our evolution. There are so many people, this is going to be a hard one to even accept or even believe, but we know this. There are now over 250,000 different species of life forms from other places that are here on Earth in either a fourth dimensional or higher level. They're watching us carefully, and these people love us. They do not want to hurt us. They want to try to help us. And it's a whole different situation, but most of the world, and even most UFO people, don't understand what is going on right now. And later in this broadcast, I'll get into one of these races that love us so much and really, really do want to help us. And when you understand it, it makes you feel better. Makes you feel better about life, definitely.
So how did it evolve the past decade or the past 2 decades?
Well, this has been going on and eventually by the 1995 or so, the Greys had to leave. It's a long story why and what took place, but we forced them to leave. It was not military. It was a single female person, and she defeated them. It's amazing. But these are stories that I can't get into now. It's just too complex, and it would take us away from the bigger picture.
We can't even know who it is?
We're not allowed. I can't say who that is. That person's life would not be safe. No, we can't do it. It's an indigenous person, a woman out of Peru. That's about all I can say right now. But and so the evolutionary aspect is what is now bringing in the attention of life everywhere. We don't know how fast we are evolving. Something took place. You see, all these rapid events of changes that were taking place in our lives, mixed in with all this technology. There was something going on with the sun, of all things. The sun that was that only happens once in the life of a star, only one time. All suns, all stars start out as hydrogen suns. And it takes a long time, in this case about 5 billion years, or a little more, for us to build up enough helium to begin the next stage. What happens is the light from the sun is caused by two hydrogen atoms coming together, forming helium. And so everything that is evolved on Earth up into this moment is evolved directly from this hydrogen light that is coming to the Earth. And you can speak with any scientist on Earth, and he'll tell you that all life that is here on Earth came from the sun. Not from Earth, but from the sun. From the light and the radiation that came from the sun. That is what is evolving us. Well, when the light changes, that's a big deal, and it changes evolution forever. And we are now got to a place where the helium is built up so high inside of the sun that you're getting 3 helium atoms coming together forming carbon, and a new kind of light is evolving onto Earth. Bell Labs acknowledged this on August 7th, 1972, when the first helium blast came off of the sun. They were amazed by this. They took the photograph of it and said that this was probably one of the greatest moments in the history of the Earth. And we just kept right on going like nothing was happening. And right after that, or right before that, in the 60s, the revolution that began to take place there, that was because the helium light was beginning to change then, but it peaked on August 7th, 1972, and we'll never be the same after that. And so what it means is that for some reason, and we believe we know, but that's another subject that would take about an hour to explain, our evolution has suddenly catapulted into another level, and it's something that the rest of the universe has never ever seen before. They can't even believe it. It's kind of like if there was a baby born, and then suddenly the baby comes out a little baby, but then 15 minutes later it's an adult. This is just like, how can this be? And so the evolution speed that humanity is going through right now it's mind-blowing to everyone that's watching it. And we don't know because we're inside the box, not outside the box. And so we don't know that we're evolving so quickly and so fast. But we are. This is not normal. This has never, ever been seen before since the beginning of the creation of this universe. And so it has attracted, this is why these 250,000 and maybe as many as 300,000 different cultures are here. They're not here because of the atomic bombs or anything the Greys were involved in. They didn't care about that. They care about the evolution that we're going through. Because if we continue to move on an evolutionary path at the rate that we're moving, we are going to affect the evolution of the entire universe. And they know this. And so they know it's going to affect them, and that's why they are so closely watching what's taking place with us.
What are the different elements of that evolution? What are the different things that are evolving within us? Can you point at that?
Well, it's beginning with technology. Technology, we think that we are the greatest thing that ever lived on the surface of the earth. And we point to our technology and our mental abilities. That we say, look at us, nobody's ever done this before. In fact, life forms have done this many times before on Earth. We just don't know it, but not in this way. And this evolutionary